Okay, welcome back. Just prefacing some things. So we're finally going through the PSA order we received just by sets of 20. So they do come packaged like so, even if you do a bulk order of 100. One thing we had to do, even though the PSA was pretty close, is just again preface. Um, you have to figure out the order. So even if you send them to the PSA in a certain order, the PSA does not send them back to you in the same order you sent them to, and they get close, but it's not the same. Now, good news is the reason why I do this video is so you and I can learn what the PSA is expecting in terms of grade of cards. And also because a lot of people played, or a few people played, guessed the grades, to which we said we would give some prizes away. Granted, we do still owe some based on some of our previous videos, so we haven't gone back and actually checked, so it does take quite a bit of time to see who guessed right and who guessed when. Also, we're going to go ahead and say we've already done our giveaway for the five card giveaway that we just recently did. 3 of the cards just went in the mail, and 2 of the cards are being redone as a giveaway because lack of reply from other people. That being said, let's go ahead and start this video. So the very first card, which is an interesting card, you really don't see it in a lot of people's collections, in my opinion. Granted, just E-Series is just kind of hard to find, but it is a Mr. Mime E-Series Reverse Holo card. Now, our guess was an 8 to 9, and the PSA said that we received a 6. Looking at it, now, my issue is I don't know centering, at least on the front of these cards. Just the E-Series cards are purposely bigger on one side because you were supposed to be able to use these in an e-reader for your Game Boy games to actually use the cards in your game. So it was a little interesting add-on to these cards. Now, we can see that there is some surface scratches all across the card, but other than that, really no whiting or nicks on the card. So the surface scratches, in my opinion, are pretty minor. Let's see if there's any issues with the back. Back centering really isn't too crazy, and the whiting is pretty minimum, in my opinion. It's really nothing crazy. I stick to my opinion. 9's probably high, but I don't think 8 is too high for this card. I'll even zoom in a little bit more. The scratches look bad, but truly they are really minor. It's just that we're under really significant lighting, and we're zoomed in very heavily on a 4K camera. So truly, I don't agree with a 6 for this card. I definitely think it's closer to an 8. I would argue, yeah, sure, 7's probably more borderline, but really 8. And when we see some more cards, you'll see what I'm talking about. Or if you ever come across cards that are in the 7 to 8 category, and the only thing I'm doing is I'm just doing a check that we got the card back. That's all. Now up next is a Neo Genesis Slow King Holo in English. We guessed 9, and the PSA said 7. So far, not so good for us. And with these original cards, these WotC cards, the holofoil material scratches off really easily. We can see scratches in the holofoil. Again, they're really not deep scratches. 7 seems a little borderline so far. The centering is off, but it's pretty minor. It's nothing drastic. It's noticeable left to right and top to bottom, but it's nothing insane. So let's see if there was something on the back that we got dinged for, because the front, I really don't agree with a 7. There's a minor bit of whitening. I mean, very minor. And that's pretty much it. I think a 7 is pretty harsh. We'll go ahead and do a zoom in. I guess there's some stains on the card. I missed that, but they're very small. 7 seems harsh. In my opinion, this is kind of closer to the 8 category. I could see I was a little high with a 9, but this is a little closer to an 8 category. It's all your opinion or someone's opinion on these scratches. Again, they look bad under the camera, how we have it set, but we are zoomed in. We're under extremely bright light, and we are shooting 4K. So you're really going to see those super fine details. Yeah, I think a 7's a little harsh, and I think my 9 was a little high. I think 8 is more suitable for that card. Up next is another Slow King, and actually I didn't write down the series, but it was a Undaunted series. We guessed 7 and 9, and the PSA said 7. So on the lower end, but this card does have a little bit more wear. Um, it's not really a scratch. It's more like someone accidentally pressed in with a pencil right there, and a little bit right there. There is some scratches even on the non-hollow foil, which in my opinion isn't a good look. The hollow foil isn't too bad if it's a minor scratch because, well, that hollow foil material comes off easily. And then there is some damage straight up to the front of the card. Now, this is more agreeable to a 7 in my category, where the damage is at and what it's for. Some minor whitening on the corners and along the edge. This is what I would expect a 7 to be. Whitening that kind of runs along the card. I think the centering is actually pretty good, so I don't think we lost points in centering. For me, it's very hard to tell the centering on the front of this because of how the card's set up. Maybe it's a little bit short on the top versus the bottom, but left to right looks pretty solid. For me, though, this is more agreeable to a 7, as I guess 7 to 9. Why did my guesses range? It's because I'm trying to center in on what the PSA thinks is acceptable and what I was guessing at the time. Next up is another Slowking. It is a Neo Genesis Japanese Slowking hollow. We guessed 9 to 10, and the PSA said 8. So far we've been off. Our guesses have been a little high. Let's see here if we can see what's wrong. Now on this one, ironically, I don't think there's anything wrong with the hollow foil. The hollow foil looks to be in like super solid shape. Maybe that's like a imprint mark right there, like someone imprinted, but it's super minor. Again, we are super heavily zoomed in. You can see that there's pretty much nothing wrong with the hollow foil besides maybe that little indent, and again, it's super hard to see. No real damages on the front. We'll zoom out to recheck the centering. Centering is off, but it's very minor. It's nothing insane. We'll check the back. Centering a little bit more noticeable top to bottom. And then some whitening on the bottom left corner on the back. I think these are just, yeah, they're just spotches on the case, not on the card. So an 8 seems a little harsh. I think a 9 would have been more acceptable. Maybe not a 10, but I think a 9 would have been more acceptable. Again, I don't know if we can agree that the PSA is rating harsh or if the PSA just doesn't know what they're doing or when these cards were happening. These cards were sent in when they were getting all new employees, which was throwing off grades. A lot of YouTubers have mentioned that. Up next is another Slowking from Breakpoint XY 2016 series, and we label it as a hollow, and also the PSA accepted it as a hollow, so that was nice. We guessed 9 to 10, and the PSA said 9, so now we are actually on the money. Is that dirt on the card? Oh, interesting, that's on the card. Maybe that's what prevented us from getting a 10. But it's more ink than dirt, if I had to guess. So the hollow foil, this material that they did the hollow foil for this card is much harder to scratch up, so it's kind of hard to lose points there. It's not the prettiest hollow foil, but it is a Slowking in a different sort of series. They almost always seem to have Slowking standing on a rock in most of Slowking's Pokemon cards. Centering is pretty good left to right and only slightly off top to bottom. Everything else on the front looks great. And on the back, there is a minor whitening on that corner, 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 and it looks like some sort of dot right there where my thumb's at on the back of the card, a few dots. So it's really strange this got a 9, and the other things got such harsher grades. If you don't know, a 7's a lot harsher than an 8, so an 8's a lot harsher than a 9. 9s and 10s aren't too far off. Next up is a Team Rocket Dark Slowking hollow. We guessed 6 to 7, and the PSA said 6. So the PSA and us are getting more agreeable. Now this is what I mean. So you saw what they considered a 7 earlier. This is what they consider a 6. And there's silvering and stains all along the top. There's a huge corner peel right here along the top. There is scratches in the hollow foil. It's a ton of minor scratches, but because it's so many, they look kind of bad. And there's even scratches in the non-hollow foil of the card. There's silvering on the right, silvering on the left. There's spotches of silvering across the card. Silvering on the corner with peel, more peel and silvering on this corner. Back's not too bad. There is some whiting. The centering is actually really good. But this is what we mean. This is what we guess was a 6 to 7. And you can see how much more damage is allowable for a 6 versus what the PSA considers a 6 to 7. Again, we think some of the 7s that we've already, or what have gotten 7s from the PSA on so far on this stack, we consider more 8s to 9s, while the PSA, they jump around too much in my opinion. It's too much of a variable between 6 to 7. I don't think it should be that much of a gigantic leap either way. Up next is a base set Ninetales. We guessed 8 to 9. PSA said 7, and this is a great example from the card we compared to the card we just looked at. So this got a 7 versus the previous card got a 6. Now the centering is pretty harsh on this one. Left to right, actually top to bottom's pretty similar, and left to right's only a little bit off. It just looks very bad because it's such a thick cut. But this was a 7. Remember the last card was just a 6. There's hardly any scratches in the hollow foil on this one. There's pretty much no silvering, no peeling, no bent corners. That's not on the card. That's just like a piece of hair. It's just a piece of hair. And on the back, again, there's whitening, but it's much more minor compared to that dark lurking that got a 6. Again, just thin plastic. So this got a 7 versus the other card got a 6. This, in our opinion, would be more borderline 8 if you compare the Dark Slow King being a 6. If you compare that Dark Slow King, if you agree that Dark Slow King was a 6, you can start to see why we guessed 8 to 9 on this Ninetales. Up next is a Jim Japanese Blaine's Ninetales number 36 non-hollow. We guessed 7 to 8, and PSA said 7. So PSA and I started to agree a bit more on this. The centering is off left to right. Top to bottom is perfect. There's no hollow foil to be scratched up, and there's really no damage because of that. But we have a pretty strong guess. Because it's a non-hollow, the PSA grades harder on non-hollows because there's no hollow foil to get scratched up. I don't think these are stains on the card. I think that's actually just part of the case where my thumb is at. Definitely looks like it's just part of the case, so we won't consider that. Looks like to be almost no whitening. It's very minimum for whitening. And now there is a chip on the corner right there. But yeah, I guess with a chip on the corner, 7's agreeable. So we'll go with that. Up next is another Ninetales. It is a promo Ninetales. BW Search Hollow. We guessed 8, and the PSA said 7. There is some silvering up at the top. The hollow foil is in decent condition. It's not perfect. You can see there's a like an indentation right here with a bunch of minor scratches. Definitely not perfect. We guessed 8. If we had to re-guess, I would also put this in the 7 category. I probably just zoomed through this. Centering's off top to bottom. Left to right's fine. It looks off, but that's just because the plastic creates a shadow right there. A little bit of whitening on the back. So we would have guessed a 7. There's whitening all around. I think a 7 is very fair. We originally guessed an 8, but I think a 7 is fair on that one. And that's more like what we're looking for 7s. Up next is a Ninetales non-hollow from Legendary Treasures. We guessed 8, and the PSA said 7. So let's see what we're working with. Centering is off top to bottom, left to right looks fine. I'm not seeing any other damage up on the front of it. Looks like almost like there's probably a bent corner, probably more appearing on the back. Minor whitening, some whitening along the edge. It's a little less minor. We'll go ahead and do a zoom in. So yeah, there's whitening all across the edge. So yeah, that's more the 7 category. We can agree with the 7 as a secondary review on that. We guessed 8, but I'd say 7's fair. And congrats to anyone who's getting these guesses right the first time. Next up is a Breakpoint Ninetales from Evolutions XY. We guessed 10, and the PSA said, drum roll please, 10. This is a fantastic card to get a 10 on. We did a little mini series mentioning how break cards are the next best investment, or at least were when we did the video. I don't know what the current prices are for break cards, as in the raw ungraded versions, but if you can still get them, back when we did that video, we were saying break cards like Ninetales, Golduck, Raichu, Machamp, the classics, we were saying we're going for about $3 a pop, $4 a pop, and that was if you got them ungraded and near mint condition, like when you looked at them in a binder. And if you get them in like a 10, you were already making a ton of money, and if you're willing to hold on, you're going to make a bunch more money. I think the break series cards are really going to skyrocket in value when people really start to realize how much they really like these cards. Back in the day when these cards came out, no one really liked them. They're like, oh, it's too much. But I really think the horizontal playability is a nice touch. I think it is a lot going on in the background, and it makes it kind of hard to look at the card, and it makes it kind of hard to figure out if there's anything wrong with the card. But if you can find them and you can see that there's pretty much no damage to them, and you think you get an 8 or above, this is a great card to get for about $3 or $4, and then have graded when the PSA re-lowers their prices, if they ever do, or anyone like CGC or BGS, if they're going to have like a $10 grading fee, even if you have to pay a $30 grading fee for like BGS. This is a great card, especially if you're going to get a 10, because automatically as a 10, I think it puts it somewhere between the $100 and $200 range, and then over time this is just going to continue to climb, as not a lot of people like to keep these. So it was nice getting a 10 on that. Up next is a Break Golduck. We guessed 9 and 10, and we got 9. I don't remember why we guessed 9 to 10. Maybe because of centering, if I had to guess, or it's a little bit off left to right. It's so hard to tell what's going on with these cards, though. In order to get a good gauge on centering, you of course have to look at the back. Yeah, left to right's looking a little bit thicker, and it looks like there's a little bit of minor whitening in this bottom right corner. Remember, you still can get a 9 with whitening. You can even still get a 10 with whitening. It just depends on how minor it is. It's pretty minor, so getting a 9 on this was pretty good. They probably could have downgraded it to an 8, but getting a 9 on this, fantastic. We'll take it. It was part of our guess. We're almost done with this video, guys. Just a couple more to go. Up next is a Break Machamp. We guessed 9, and again, we got it right on the money. I couldn't tell you why I guessed 9 previously. We'd have to rewatch that video if I mentioned why. I usually do. Again, probably something to do with centering if I had to guess, or maybe that minor silvering right there that I'm seeing. But it does look like possibly centering is why I made the guess, or maybe some minor whitening on the corners. But again, it's really nice to guess right on the dot, and it's really nice to get in the 9s and ups. These cards are only going up in value, so that's fantastic. Up next is a Neo Genesis English Holo Jump Fluff. We guessed 8 to 9, and the PSA said 9, which is actually also pretty fantastic. And this is actually really surprising, because if we do a zoom in, you can see there's almost kind of like an uplift silvering indent at the top. So usually that automatically puts you in like the 6th category for the PSA. So it's really surprising. But the holo foil is pretty much absolutely perfect. And everything else looks to be pretty good. Just that top indent in the center seems to be an issue. But you can't even see it from the back side, which is really rare for that to occur. Only on one side. And it looks like maybe some minor uplift in the right corner. So it's really strange we got a 9, but we'll go ahead and take it. So thank you. Again, even though it's in our favor, we will argue this is what we mean by they just have too many new graders or had too many new graders and issues occurred. For example, I probably believe this one. So we have a Neo Genesis P2 English Hollow. We guessed 9, and the PSA said 7. So let's see here. Centering looks fine. The border's thick all around. Maybe a little bit off left to right, but everything looks to be in pretty much pretty good order. We'll zoom in. The hollow foil has scratches, but they're really minor. There's actually not a ton of them, just a few. Everything else seems to be in order on the front. So we'll go ahead and check the back. And it's super minor whitening. So yeah, I think 7's too harsh. I think 8 would have been fair, and I think 9 would have been pretty accurate either way. So it's kind of strange we got a 7. I don't really agree with that, but you just gotta take what you can get, I guess, once you get something graded. Now, this was weird to me. I don't know why we guessed 10, but for this Fossil Hollow Zapdos, we guessed 10, and the PSA said, nah, fam, you got a 7. This wasn't the misprint where there's hollow foil missing here. That would have been nice. But the hollow foil on this card is just, for this one specifically, I don't think there's a single issue with it. Maybe some itty bitty minor scratches over his wing. Other than that, those are super minor. It's thick, bordering, but it's pretty even. And there's some super minor silvering on the side. Is there something wrong on the back that we're missing? That's just stuff on the case. So yeah, you saw how harsh that dark sloping was. That was a 6. This supposedly the PSA is a 7. This, in my opinion, is 9, borderline 10. I still think that, so that's kind of ridiculous that it's 7. Up next is a Delmise V from Pokemon Sword and Shield. We went ahead and guessed 9 to 10, and PSA said 10, so that was nice. It's not a super rare card. It's barely, I don't even think it's worth it to get a 10 on this card. I don't think it increases its value hardly any, but because it's a 10, we'll hold on to it. And as the years go by, especially if any fan following happens for this Pokemon, but we doubt that will happen, this card will start to increase in value. It's nice we got a 10. I don't know if I fully agree with it. It looks like it probably should have been a little bit lower, but, you know, we'll take what we can get at this point. Up next is a Pinsir Hollow Misprint Jungle English. We guessed 9 to 10. PSA said 7. The misprint is there is no jungle symbol where it's supposed to be. The hollow foil seems to be some scratches, but they're pretty minor. Some silvering, but again, minor. The centering looks to be actually really good. Some minor corner damage, very minor though. All the damage is so minor, it doesn't really follow up on the back. So 10's obviously off, but I would say 8 to 9, but PSA says 7. I think 7 is a little harsh, but whatever. Up next is a non-hollow Umbreon from Neo Discovery. This is actually one of my original cards from when I used to play the game. I've always thought Umbreon was really cool. Centering's only a little bit off left to right, but other than that, it's pretty good. I don't really see any other damages going on in the front. So we'll check the back. Looks like some corner damage whitening. That's a little bit more apparent, so 7's now a little bit more accurate. I think 7's accurate. We'll accept that. We guessed 7 to 8. They gave us 7. I think that's fair. And up last but not least, Blaine's Charizard, Japanese Hollow, we guessed 9 to 10. PSA, of course, said, nah, fam, you got a 7. I see some super minor dent, but it's super minor. Centering's off left to right, that's for sure. The hollow foil looks to be in really great shape, so that's pretty fantastic. Oh, that's right. There was a corner bin we must have missed. I will have to go back and rewatch this video to see if there was a corner bin, and hopefully that wasn't damage caused by the PSA. Hopefully I have video evidence to show this corner to see if I can see if it was me or the PSA. With the corner, yeah, we agree with 7. But if I find out that corner damage wasn't there before, then 9 to 10. I've missed corner damage in the past. I've admitted it in previous videos. So we'll take another look and we'll see. So folks, that is the first set of 20 out of our 5 sets of 20 for our gigantic, or what we consider a gigantic PSA order, at least for us. And we hope to do some sort of card grading. And of course, we'll make more videos on the cards as we start to review them. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope some of you got the grades right. We'll hopefully find a time to see if you got the grades right. And then, of course, we'll do giveaways based on those who guessed right. So congratulations to any future winners. Thanks for watching. Bye.